Hello and welcome, you are gaming with me, Brothgar, and today I am going to be talking about Diablo 3 and whether or not it's worth playing without the expansion of Reaper of Souls. So I'm going to be taking two kind of perspectives to this. My own, which is an experienced player coming back to the game, which I've kind of already done a review like this for the update of 1.8 when they introduced monster power levels, and from the second kind of view of maybe what it might be like of a new player getting into this game at this point. So as we can tell, the Reaper of Souls has added a lot of stuff, a new act, new levels, a new character, but what is Diablo 3 in its current state as a standalone game, as it is still, a fairly decent investment. I believe it's right around $40 for now as the initial game cost, and then you have the expansion, which is another $40, which you kind of are going to have to determine whether or not that is worth investing in. But Diablo 3 as it stands, how is the game now? Well, they've definitely kind of changed it from launch. So if you're way back in the day when you kind of just played the game when it first came out, it has definitely been changed. You can play through the game on multiple levels. It's a lot like what it was back when it was 1.8, where they had the monster levels of 10 different powers. However, it's been completely kind of revamped. Basically, in a nutshell, there is 10 levels to the game, and the monsters always level up with you. So you kind of be able to change between those. Even if you're a low level or a high level, you can reduce the difficulty if you're having too hard, or if the things have kind of slowed down and you just want to plow through some mobs, you can actually adjust that in kind of real time. You just hit the escape key, you change your difficulty, bada bing, bada boom, and you just continue moving on through the game. So it's nice to kind of see that they've kind of taken the monster power level concept to a more efficient state. Now with this update has come Loot 2.0, which basically means you now get gear that is more relevant to your character, or shall I say it is relevant to your character. I was pretty much always getting dexterity and vitality as kind of the items that my monk was picking up at all times, maybe a little bit of intellectual here and there. The thing is, that is basically the stats. They've kind of reduced the amount of stats and simplified it a whole lot from where it was, so you don't need to be kind of like a mathematician to figure out what is better gear than another item. It's pretty much felt self-explanatory. They kind of reduced it, in my personal opinion, a little bit too much. I liked the complexity of it. I liked being able to kind of build certain builds and kind of know where that gear was going, and now it kind of seems like it's a little bit oversimplified from where it was, but it's still kind of nice to be able to see that you can actually build up your characters and understand what in the world you're doing, especially if you're a new player. So it's really good. Loot 2.0 is good for a new character. You might miss a little bit of the complexity though if you're an experienced player like me. However, it's nice knowing what these stats are doing. However, as we dig deeper into the Loot 2.0 system, I have some concerns, and that's mostly because as you're playing with a high level character, it's really hard for you now to transfer kind of the earnings and the stats, or shall we say, the ability to get sweet gear from one character and then transfer it to another character, which isn't quite as powerful. Luckily, your Paragon levels are now kind of universal. There doesn't seem to be any limit, and you can transfer that stays between all your characters, no matter if they're level 1 or level 60 or level 70. Your Paragon levels are universal, so there's always some regenerative value there. However, when we're talking about the loot system, I'm not going to get an item playing a monk that I'm going to use on my mage. I'm just really not going to get something like that. So if I step back and kind of think about this as far as my character not being able to get mage gear as a monk, there's kind of a positive negative. I get the gear that I need for my monk, but I don't get the gear that I can transfer. So maybe I'm going to go to the auction house and kind of use some of that gold, or maybe I find some sweet monk gear and you think maybe I can sell that. However, the auction house has straight up been removed from the game, which in my personal opinion is a very crippling factor to the game, because a lot of my power generated for my character came through the auction house. I'm not a person that really likes to go around and grind a whole lot. I much rather kind of work the economics, work what sells, and figure out how I can make money on the auction house. And that is truly how I built up the character you saw here. It wasn't by grinding, it wasn't by fighting monster after monster after monster. It was by working the auction house, finding some sort of it was actually leveling helmets, like mid to low level leveling helmets with enhancements. I was actually able to craft really good helmets and then sell like 100 or 300, 400 of them, and I was actually able to make a decent amount of gold, which I then reinvested into gear that went on to my character. So for me, the auction house is a big factor in the game, and not having that kind of feels like I'm playing a single player game. I feel like I'm back to the days where I'm playing a dungeon crawling game on the PlayStation 2. However, on a side note, they have added the ability to have clans in-game and different communities that you can join. So it's going to be a little bit easier to find people to play with in the game. However, in general, I find that this is a game that I really only want to play with my close friends, and since they don't necessarily have the game, I'm pretty much just going to avoid community altogether. But it's definitely nice to see that they have incorporated the tools into the game. So quickly jumping back onto the topic of the auction house being removed, well, it's kind of a disappointment, but at the same time it's kind of a relief, because a lot of the really good gear you just could never afford. Somebody had all the gold in the world and they were posting it for some ridiculous amount, so it made for a lot of players not being able to get the gear that they needed, and now you can kind of get that from just playing the game. So it's definitely, the dynamic there has changed. You need to play the game to get better at the game. So that's how it works, and I feel like it actually kind of forces people into parties and forces them into teaming up with people that are going to make a more effective kind of farming, loot running groups. So moving this commentary back in the direction of a conclusion, I feel like as a new player coming into this game, you're going to definitely have a whole lot of fun, and sitting down with a bunch of friends, maybe even on the console, just to have a great time throughout the evening. You're going to have a lot of fun playing this game for the first time. It's definitely in its best state ever. There's new events, and there's a lot of little hidden stuff that you can still find within the original game itself. So I'm not going to diss on the game, because I think it's actually definitely in the best state that it's ever been. However, if you're like me and you're an experienced player coming back to the game, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot more there that wasn't there before. I mean, the monster levels are still there, you're going to find new gear, and that's definitely satisfying, but that kind of sucks you into what Diablo is all about. That rate of inflation, that ability to kind of kill more and more and bigger and badder monsters. And at the end of the day, what I personally felt like playing this game after about 3 hours back, going through the different acts and fighting monsters on different levels, I just felt like I was missing something. Like, the game was kind of cheating me out of my ultimate goal, which is to become the best, most powerful monk ever. And then I started to feel like, you know what, the only way I'm going to actually truly become powerful and experience all that Diablo 3 has to offer is to get that expansion of the Reaper of Souls. So in my conclusion, the game is definitely fun. It's nice to be able to actually kind of level up and feel like I'm going to be able to take on whatever comes my way. The only way I'm going to obtain this is maybe by gaming with friends and grinding a whole lot, which makes me just ultimately feel like if I'm going to go through all that effort, I might as well do it with the Reaper of Souls installed. Now, whether or not this is worth the price of admission is kind of hard to back up. The expansion, in my opinion, is definitely expensive. Now, to me, I like the idea of Reaper of Souls costing me $20. At that price, for me, it's hands down no-brainer. I got it installed today. $30, I start to kind of move into that range of, well, maybe it's worth it. And at $40, I'm having a hard time legitimizing my ability kind of to get back into the game, where kind of the campaign end of it is right around 5 hours, and then plus whatever kind of replay value you get from there. I feel like if I'm definitely going to get back into this game, I'm going to have to do more than just buy Reaper of Souls. I'm going to have to change my approach and find a good community to link up with, which is nice that they actually have new community tools where you can kind of hook up with different clans and different groups, and if you can actually make friends and then kind of move together with friends in this game, it becomes much more of a social experience, and I feel like my replay value would definitely go up. But there just has to be a little bit more for me to really commit to say that yes, that price of admission is worth it. So there you have it. That is my opinions on whether or not it is worth playing Diablo 3 without the Reaper of Souls expansion installed. If you're finding yourself on the fence, make sure to give the game a download, give it a few hours, and see if you find yourself feeling that addiction again. Also, you'll probably want to check out a review here. I'm going to have a link here on the video and in the description below of IGN's review of Reaper of Souls, so you can kind of see what exactly you're missing out on and see if that's worth investing into if you find yourself getting pulled back into Diablo 3. So in closing, I hope you found this commentary helpful in some way, shape, or form. If you did or just found it enjoyable, make sure to hit that like button on the way out. That's going to help me support my content here on YouTube. The comment section is below. Let me know what you think about Diablo 3 and whether or not you find yourself playing the Reaper of Souls expansion. I'm still kind of on the fence about it, and I might be thinking I might wait till the price drops a little bit. Also, if you haven't subscribed already to my YouTube channel here, I do a lot of gaming stuff and a lot of different things besides Diablo 3. I think Loadout is probably my biggest series at the current moment, but I do a lot of other stuff, so make sure to browse through my channel if you want to see more of the content that I have to provide. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace. Brothgar out. But we're gonna mop him up with new Broth 3.5. Oh yeah! One down. Still rolling. Oh, that is double. 200 points for Brothgar. Right off the bat. Got aggressive right there. Now I just gotta find some health, and I do not know where health is on this map. I'm thinking it's high. Found it. I'm going to go low because I need... Oh, that's not health. That's not health at all.